Welcome to RANsquawk's e-morning briefing for Friday the 13th of November 2009. A bit of a review of the overnight press, firstly starting off in Asia. Obviously in Singapore, the APEC conference, the Asian Pacific Economic Cooperation Conference, still ongoing into a second day now. Pretty much the general theme coming out of that is that countries have to closely coordinate unwinding stimulus packages to keep asset bubbles under control and to avoid derailing a fragile recovery in consumer confidence, as according to most of the business and political leaders at that conference. World Bank's President Zolik also added that the global economy faces risks from unemployment, but the threat of inflation is not a great concern, although he did stress that Asian central banks will face some price pressures. Indeed, as well, stemming from that conference, we have seen in the last hour and a half, around midday in Europe, the slight strengthening in terms of the Japanese yen across the board, seemingly led by the dollar yen. Technically, it did move back down through the 90.00 handle, and that triggered some stops and it exacerbated some of the move downward. However, it has meant that some market speculation has swirled in regards to a potential Chinese revaluation. Again, not too much surprise given the ongoing conference, but also as well as Obama is heading towards China, and some of the recent speculation as well that they could appreciate the yuan in regards to their political pressure that's ongoing within the Chinese domestic economy. Elsewhere in Asia, overnight, Japan's industrial production, that came out slightly stronger as well, so it's worth noting that with some of the yen's strength, came out on a monthly basis at 2.1 against a previous of 1.4. And allied to that, Chinese annual GDP growth rates could reach 10% in Q4 as the economic recovery exceeds expectations, with full-year economic growth of about 8.3% according to a senior government official. Elsewhere from the US, something that might get a bit more attention when the US players come into the market in around an hour and a half time will be out of the Wall Street Journal. They wrote that economists said the Federal Reserve may raise interest rates around September 2010, according to the journal, which cites a survey of 52 economists. Going to usually conduct that on a monthly basis. Those economists expect the unemployment rate to rise to 10.3% by year end and stay above 9.5% through next year, according to the journal. Elsewhere, in terms of ECB speakers, we've seen Shramko on the wires already this morning saying that rates are appropriate. Allied that to Provopoulos, who spoke late yesterday evening, saying that global economic recovery is still fragile and lasting. Stable recovery is not yet a given, though. Take a look in terms of UK news, something in the FT that's just worth noting, having heard that the pre-budget report in the UK will be released on December 9th. The Chancellor of the Exchequer, Darling, may present a less optimistic forecast for the UK economy compared with that of the BOE when that statement is given, according to the FT. In terms of equities, somewhat of confirmation then after the market closed yesterday, with British Airways confirming the merger with Iberia for an agreement at $7 billion, creating the world's third largest airline by revenue, the merger to be completed in 2010. However, it's worth keeping a close eye on any preceding comments we may see throughout the session and the weekend in particular, given the fact that Iberia have said that if British Airways and their pension trustees cannot reach an amicable agreement, then they still have the option of pulling out of that merger deal. British Airways and Iberia shares, though, are trading high on the back of the initial merger plans. Elsewhere, in terms of equities in UK and Germany, we're trading in minor positive territory. The CAC is seeing some rather stark underperformance today. That's led by the biggest stock in France, Total, being ex-dividend there, heavily weighing on the index. US data today, 1:30, we'll have the trade balance numbers alongside import price index data. We'll also get the November prelim Michigan report just before 3 o'clock London, so just ahead of 9 o'clock in Chicago. Speaker-wise from the Fed this afternoon, we've got Dudley and Evans, and from the ECB we'll be looking out for Noye and Novotny. Earnings-wise as well, to finish off the week, we'll be looking for Agilent Tech. There will be aftermarket, and JC Penney should be before the opening bell on Wall Street.